Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Jamaica attaches great importance to the work of a global platform for disaster risk reduction. As a small island developing state with particular vulnerabilities, we regard the work of the platform and the wider agenda of disaster prevention and management to be important priorities at the national and international levels. The practice of formal disaster management in Jamaica is in its 30th year. The evolutionary process has been informed by our own experience as well as regional and international approaches and best practices. Two key philosophical approaches are at the heart of the development and practice of Jamaica's disaster risk reduction strategy: culture change and building community capacity to increase resilience and reduce risks. Jamaica's experiences have contributed to the galvanizing of regional and global consensus around the need for a common roadmap on how to address the issues of disaster risk reduction and the adjustments required to combat the effects of climate change. Jamaica has made important progress in the area of disaster risk reduction. We have adopted a comprehensive disaster management framework and implemented the HIOGA framework of action. There is greater national recognition and increased awareness of the gravity of Jamaica's vulnerability to a multiplicity of hazards and the serious implications of this for sustainable development. We recognize that to be most effective, disaster risk reduction must be integrated and mainstreamed in the physical planning process. In this regard, we are developing a national spatial plan that will take fully into account the environment, geography, population, and other developmental issues in approaching land use and spatial developments. Furthermore, given the reality of increasing vulnerabilities, national asset exposure, and the importance of enhancing wider stakeholder engagement, we have anchored disaster risk reduction and the climate change adaptation agenda within the National Development Strategy Framework for Jamaica called Vision 2030. Madam Chairperson, there have been approximately 20 major disasters over the past 20 years, which have resulted for Jamaica in losses in excess of over 3 trillion Jamaican dollars. Disasters account for an average annual loss of 2 to 3% of GDP. The impact on the livelihoods of people, the unquantifiable psychological impact, and the gradual erosion of critical infrastructure and our capacity to effectively cope within a difficult fiscal environment is of great concern. We are, in fact, in a cycle of continuous rebuilding, and this presents challenges for implementation of disaster risk reduction strategies. Notwithstanding these challenges, the government of Jamaica recognizes that sustainable development can only be achieved through mainstreaming and integrating disaster risk reduction in all sectors. We continue to invest in mitigation strategies and the strengthening of public policies. We recognize that despite our efforts, greater investments are needed in order to secure consistent financial support for sustainable disaster reduction initiatives. We wish to take this opportunity to thank the international community for the support they have been providing to Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean region, especially in the face of the many severe natural disasters that affect our region. We also recognize that there are important linkages to be made between our disaster risk reduction strategies and those relating to wider environmental and climate change issues. There are many synergies that can be explored in this regard. Surely, in looking at funding and programming arrangements for climate change, adaptation, and mitigation initiatives, there's logic in examining the areas of disaster risk reduction that are worthy of attention, including funding and technical assistance within the ambit of the climate change agenda. We consider this to be an important matter for further reflection. Madam Chair, let me restate Jamaica's commitment to the HIOGA framework for action and assure you that we will continue to promote its goals and priorities for action within the national and regional context. I should also add that the mayor of our largest community in Jamaica, will speak further to local initiatives when he makes his contribution later in the session. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and wish for the rest of this conference continued success.